Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I thought I would do my top 10 baby names for girls. So when you're pregnant and you're picking a name for your baby, it's a really exciting time and it can also be really stressful. I really loved picking my baby names, but I did find it difficult when I was having Henry because I really struggled with boys' names. When I was having Penelope, I already had her name picked out for years. I always wanted the name Penelope and Kieran was in agreement with me on that, so that was really lucky. So when I found out we was having a girl, we knew her name straight away. With her middle name, which is Aurora, Kieran actually suggested this, and even though I am like a Disney freak, I hadn't suggested any Disney names because I thought he would be like, absolutely not. But when he suggested Aurora, I was like, sold, we're having it, no changes now, no backsies. That was when we decided it was Penelope Aurora, and I absolutely love her name. I think it's just so girly, and yeah, it's like my absolute favourite name. But when I was pregnant with Henry, we really struggled with picking a boy's name, and I had a list as long as my arm of girls' names because I think girls' names for me personally are really easy to pick. There's just so many pretty ones out there, but boys' names I really struggled with because I don't like to have names that are someone that I know if they have the same name, or if I know of some, like if they remind you of someone and it kind of puts you off that name. You might not necessarily dislike the name, but you know somebody with it. That's why I really struggle with boys' names, because all the ones I liked seem to be taken. I don't really see us having a third child. I would absolutely love more children, but unless I could do a Kim Kardashian and have somebody else carry the baby for me, I really do not think that my body could go through another pregnancy, because my pregnancies, both of them have been horrendous and I've had really bad time with them both, and this time I have really suffered recovery wise. So all these names that I'm going to suggest to you now are what were possible baby names when we was having Henry if he had have been a girl. So they're all names that I really love, and I think they're really nice, pretty names. They are quite girly names, I'd probably say. So if you'd like to hear some suggestions, then please keep on watching. So the first name on the list, which these names aren't in any specific order, just pretty much the order that I wrote them down. So the first name that I wrote down was Hermione. You may know that name from Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter series, and when I was looking for names this time, I was typing in all kinds of random things like pretty old-fashioned names, pretty story names, and it actually came up suggested for Shakespearean names. So I thought, oh, I'll have a look on there and see if there's anything unusual, because I'm sure that Penelope's name is actually a Shakespearean name as well. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll find something on there that I really like. And it had Hermione on there, and I thought Penelope and Hermione sound quite nice together. Even though they're both long names, I thought they were both really pretty. That is how I come across the name Hermione. Even though I knew it from Harry Potter, it wasn't actually that inspired the name. It was when I was reading it on this Shakespearean names list that actually made me think, oh, actually I quite like that. So I wrote that down, and Kieran weren't too keen on that one, but I was like, I really love Hermione, and I think Hermione and Penelope were so pretty together. We can't really have a short name and a long name together, and that's the thing, when you have siblings you have to think of not only does it match with your surname, does it match with their name, and I thought that was just a really nice pretty name that would just sort of go along with Penelope. So that was the first name that I'd wrote down on our potential girls list. The next name that I had wrote down was Aria, or Arya, whichever way you like to say it or spell it, because there's two different ways. I first heard this name on Pretty Little Liars quite a few years ago, and I just thought it was a really pretty name, but there was someone that I knew that actually picked this name for their little girl. So I think even though I wrote it down, this definitely wouldn't have been a name that I would have picked because I did know someone with that name, but I think it is a really beautiful name. And then the way it's spelled Arya is actually off Game of Thrones, and me and Kieran are both really big Game of Thrones fans. We were thinking that if we did choose that name, we'd probably spell it the Game of Thrones way with the Y. Yeah, and I just think Arya is a really pretty name. It's really quite girly, but then I think you could have it where it's not so girly as well if you're not really into that kind of thing. It can go both ways depending on what type of person you are as well, if that makes sense. If you can hear a little baby screaming in the background, it's just Henry. He's behind me here on the bed and he's just found his voice, so he may scream out. He's all good, it's nothing whingy, thank God. He's stopped crying, he's just finding his voice. The next name that I absolutely love, and this again with Hermione was because of the length, is Anastasia, because I thought I need a long name to go with Penelope, and I absolutely love the name Anastasia. I've loved that name since I was little, and I used to watch the film Anastasia with like Anastasia Romanoff. I just think it's an absolutely beautiful name. The only thing that would put me off with the Anastasia was if it was to get shortened to Anna. I don't like shortening names, even though with Penelope we actually called her Penny all the way through my pregnancy, and we nicknamed her Penny Pops, and she was going to be a Penny when she got here. And as soon as she was born, I was like, I don't like Penny on her. She's not a Penny, she's a Penelope. And I would just be worried that Anastasia would get shortened to Anna. That's the only thing with some names, is you have to think, would you like it if it got shortened as well? That was sort of what we took into consideration with that name. I've had to pick Henry up because he is now getting whingy, so I'm never going to get this finished otherwise, am I? Because you're being a whingy bum. So you're going to sit there nice now and cuddle mummy. So that was my issue with Anastasia, was just if it would get shortened, because I do like the name Anna, but it's just not something that I would want to call my child. So I was like, I don't think that I would probably end up going with that, but I do love the name. And also I was a little bit worried, not too much, but because 50 Shades of Grey was like massive and you had Anastasia in that as well, I was thinking, will people think that I've took the name from that? Even though it's not a big deal, like it wouldn't really matter if I did take the name from that, but that was just one thing that I was thinking about, would people think that? And because she shortens her name to Anna in that's why I thought people would shorten the name. So that's the only thing that would really like put me off, but I still really love that name and I think it is such a beautiful name. The next name on my list is Phoebe. I really love this name. I didn't used to, like when I used to watch Friends when I was younger, it wasn't really my favourite one on there, but as I've got older I just really think it's a cute name and I think it's a nice name for when they get older. I was really adamant, like I want 2 P names, we're gonna have all P's, but then I was like, do I want 2 P names? I'm not too sure about that. That was one of the things that I was like, I don't know. So these were all things I was taking into consideration when I was picking the names, but which it didn't really matter in the end anyway because I had a boy. But I was thinking, oh, should we have all P names matching or not? Do we not want P names? Because then when they get older, the male is going to get all mixed up together. So those were just different things that I was considering. But I really love the name Phoebe. I just thought it was really cute. I like the way it sounds, and I think as a baby, it's like a nice sounding name to say to them. If you're saying Baba, like Phoebe, it's quite cutesy. I thought I really liked that name, so that ended up going on to my potential baby names list. The next name on my list is Esme, and I got this from Twilight. It was the mum vampire on there. A lot of my names you'll probably find do have inspiration from TV shows or films because we're very big film fans and box set fans. Penelope's name actually came from Big Bang Theory. We do love picking inspiration from films or books or whatever. So Esme does come from that. I think it's a really pretty name. Again, they're all like quite girly pretty names that I've chosen, and I liked the E name. A lot of the names tend to have the same letters that I pick, and I liked the E name, and I kept coming back to it, and Kieran was like, no, I don't like that name, and I was like, but I really love it. I think it's really pretty. So I put it on the list anyway, regardless of what he said, and I thought Penelope and Esme sounded nice together again, so that was why that ended up on my list. The next name on my list was Mila, and I absolutely loved this name. I kept coming back to it. I was like, I really love Mila, I really love Mila. I think that we should have that name if it's a girl. The only person that I know with the name Mila is Mila Kunis, and someone was talking about her and she said Mila Kunis, and I was like, no, it's Mila, and it really put me off then. I was like, oh no, what if people, I mean, do like the name Mila as well, but if I've called her Mila and people call her Mila, it would really irritate me, and I know that that would happen because even though Penelope, you can't really get that wrong, the doctor calls her Penelope and it really annoys me, and I get called Nicola all the time, so I know how irritating it would be if they was to have that name and it got changed. But I still really loved it. I still kept coming back to it, and even just before we found out I was having a boy, I was still like swaying towards Mila as one of my top favourite ones. I do really love that name. The next name that I love was Imogen. I don't know where I got this name from actually. I mean, obviously I've heard it somewhere, and there's a few people that I've heard of called Imogen, but I just kept coming back to it. I just thought it was a really lovely, pretty name. Again, I thought it went really nice with Penelope and Imogen together, would be really cute. That was pretty much really the reason why I put it on there. I thought it was just really nice sounding, and again, I kind of tend to go for a lot of names that begin with a vowel. So they're always sort of similar letters that I tend to like. There's nothing deliberate about that. I just tend to be drawn to, like, I found that a lot of my names were either having A on or P on and H. So it's just similar sort of letters that I found. I narrowed my girls list from like a massive list, and they were all, Kieran's like, you've got loads of names beginning with A, loads of names beginning with E. So when I narrowed it down, there was still a few with the same letters. So I tend to find that I'm drawn to certain types of letters. I just really love the name Imogen. I think it's a really pretty name, and it was definitely one that I would have considered if we was having a baby girl. The next name is Olivia, and this one I thought was probably the most, I mean, they're not really weird names that I picked, but I'd probably consider this the most normal name out of the lot of the list. And I think it's an absolutely beautiful name. I think the inspiration came from Olivia Palermo, if that's how, I don't know if that's how you say it. And I saw her in a magazine and the name wrote down, and I was like, that's quite pretty. And then I thought Penelope and Olivia sounds really pretty. And there wasn't really anything putting me off it. I didn't know anyone with the name Olivia. After I've had Henry, I do now know a few Olivias. So it is quite a popular name, but I do really think it's a lovely name and definitely one that I would consider if I was to have a girl. The next name is one that I really loved, but Kieran really hated, and is Luna. And I think it's just so beautiful. It's like moon in Spanish, and I thought it was just such a pretty name. But even my mum was like, oh, Looney, and I was like, no, I'm not having Looney. And I was like, no, you can't say that, it's such a pretty name. Luna's such a beautiful name. They were both the same, saying, oh, she'll get called Looney if we have Luna. And then because in Harry Potter again there is a character called Luna, and they call her Looney Luna, so I was like, oh, do I really want that? But I'm like, it's such a beautiful name though, would people actually call her that? And I thought Luna really went with the middle name that I wanted, because the middle name that I would have if I had another girl is Belle. Obviously another Disney one, it had to be. So I was thinking Luna Belle sounds so beautiful, and all these names pretty much go with the middle name Belle as well, so that was what I was looking for. I thought it would have been a really pretty name, but Kieran was a no-go on it. But like I said again, it didn't matter because we ended up having a boy, but that is one that I really recommend because I really love that name. And the last name on my list is Isla. I think this name is absolutely beautiful. It is quite a popular name, so I think if you don't want a popular name, then this is one that you probably don't want to go for. I don't personally know anyone called Isla. I don't know any little girls called Isla. Like any of my friends or anything like that don't have that name. So that wasn't really an issue for me, but when you look at like the top baby name lists, it does come in quite high. The same with like Olivia as well. That one comes in quite high, even though I didn't know anyone personally with those names, because that does really bug me if you know someone with that name. Like the week that Henry was born, we'd bought all like monogram stuff, like personalised things with his name on, and I didn't know anyone called Henry. And then the week that he was born, someone named their baby Henry that I knew, and I was absolutely devastated. I was like, we need to change the name, but Kieran's like, no, we're sticking with that name. And to be honest, picking a boy's name was so difficult, I don't think I could have changed it anyway. That was the thing, like if I had Isla and I found out that it was getting really popular in the area, I think I would have had to have changed it. Like I said, I don't know anyone personally, but I have heard people saying that they know people with Islas. And another thing, same with the MILA thing, if someone called it MILA, this one, I've heard someone use the term ISLA, and I'd be like, no, it's Isla. And it's there's such beautiful names for people to pronounce wrong. And I get sometimes people just don't know, they look at how it's spelled and they make an assumption, but it would just really irritate me, and I would be like, it's Isla, it's not Isla. That would be one thing that I would maybe consider as well if I was using that name, is if someone would get it incorrect. So those are my top 10 favourite baby girl names for if I was to have another baby girl. And like I said, I can't see us having any more children, so either some freak accident where I end up pregnant, or I get amnesia of the other 2 pregnancies and decide to go ahead and have another one, then my name would probably come off that list unless I heard another name in the meantime. But those were all names that I did have for if I was going to have a girl this time. But we had this little monkey. I absolutely love picking names. If anyone's pregnant, I'm always like, what's the name, I just love it. And I'll be like, let me send you some suggestions, let me sit down and pick some with you. I love doing that. I think it's such a fun part of having a baby, because that's the name that they're going to have for the rest of their life. It's so personal to you, and you might hate these names that I've suggested. You might think, what on earth are those names? But those are just names that I love, and if you're trying to choose a name for your little girl and you're struggling, I hope that maybe I've given you some inspiration, or maybe just some other ideas on where to look. Like I said, I typed in searches such as old British novel characters, Shakespearean characters, just where I could get something random really, so that I didn't want something too weird, but I wanted something that was probably a little less popular, or maybe just thought a little bit more outside the box with things. So if you are picking a name for your baby, good luck with everything, and I hope you find the one that you love. I am going to do my top 10 baby boy names that were on my sort of rechecked list from when I had Henry. They were sort of like the next ones, but to be honest, I didn't have that many names. There were names that I did like, but they were always ones that I knew that people already had. I'm going to go back through it all and have a look and see what names were on there that I liked, and I will do a suggestion for top 10 boys names as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, I hope you find it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!